Here's the bowl. Each week we pour one specimen in and look. This week, Grindset. Not as a flaw to fix, not as gospel to chase, as a piece of installed machinery, pulled out, set down, examined under cold light. No 5-step cure here, no affirmations. If you came to feel better, this isn't that. If you came to see clearly, pull up a stool. It is 5:04 a.m. The alarm has not rung, but your body is already awake. You open the first app. Revenue is down 4%. Your stomach tightens. Second app. A peer posts his new office, glass walls and skyline. Your jaw locks. Third app. 17 tasks. Your shoulders rise before your feet touch the floor. 3 screens, 30 seconds. 3 body shifts. Your senses, what neuroscience calls first-stage perceptual processing, what Yogacara called the 5 sampling consciousnesses, have already sampled the signals. Screen light, numbers, the red dot, the office image. The samplers brought data to the door. But the problem is not the samplers. The exhaustion is arriving from a deeper layer, before work has even begun. Grindset sells that moment as proof that you care. Rise and grind. Discipline is freedom. Someone else is working while you sleep. And sometimes it works. A schedule can protect you. A hard morning can move a project forward. The feeling of progress is real. That is why this is not a cheap debunk. The package is not empty. It contains structure, pressure, and a language for ambition. But the label closes the case too early. It says tired means undisciplined, and disciplined means you should convert more of life into measurable output. It trains you to treat every quiet hour as a missed score. Tonight, turn the package over. The cost you are paying is not workload, it is stamp load. Before that becomes obvious, you have to see the machine that makes a me for every fact to stick to. The last bowl showed 2 systems. Your samplers gather weighted signals. Your inference engine, the story maker from the last bowl, assembles them into a cause and effect story. That engine has not clocked out, but underneath it is not a bouncer sorting signals at the door. It is a survival self-model already running before the signal arrives. The stamp machine keeps taking the moving layer beneath experience and holding it as if it were one steady me. So when an image, number, sentence, face, or silence appears, the first problem is not that the machine sorts it. The me is already waiting. The signal sticks to that manufactured center. Then the story maker can classify, explain, defend, and narrate. This is the stamp machine. It has been running before you woke up. It is running now while you hear this sentence. Back to 5:04. Revenue down 4%. It sticks to the me already waiting. Negative jolt. Stomach tightens. The peer's office. It sticks because the self-model needs reference points. Negative jolt. Jaw locks. 17 tasks. They gather around the same manufactured center. The body prepares for threat before the day has a shape. Maybe it is just too much work. Maybe next quarter will loosen. Maybe you only need one cleaner system. No. It started before the work. Not workload, stamp load. Grindset turns income, followers, gym logs, sleep, and weekends into material for the stamp machine. Even rest becomes a performance receipt. Did you recover correctly, optimize correctly, prepare correctly? You think you are building discipline. You are maxing out the machine that makes every metric personal. Picture the follower count again. The number sits there. You stare for 1.5 seconds. Nothing outside has changed. Your chest has. That is why the brain research matters. In 2001, Rakel and colleagues described a strange pattern. With no external task, parts of the brain used more baseline activity, not less. It became known as the default mode network. Later, Northoff and others proposed one route through it: self-related processing, including past, future, and other people. That route is not the whole consensus. The network is heterogeneous. So this is not a Western replacement for the stamp machine, or proof that an old map was secretly neuroscience. It is a biological echo, not an equation. The shared question is narrower. Why does a self-model keep assembling when no external job is assigned? The outside world did not send an attack. A number touched a self-model already in motion, and your body received the contact as news about you. The factory setting is not silence. The factory setting is stamping. One subroutine makes the machine especially expensive: comparison. A peer becomes a benchmark. A benchmark becomes a ruler. The ruler touches your revenue, your apartment, your age, your body, your timeline. The whole check finishes before you can name it. That is why the office photo hits faster than thought. First, about me. Then, his curve against mine. Then, jolt. Grindset calls this awareness. Monitor the market, track the greats, study winners. But each round gives another metric a place to stick. This is not CBT's rumination loop, though it shares one mechanism. Repetition turns neutral information into personal evidence. It starts lower, before thought becomes a sentence. Work does not tire you. Stamping does. The work was always there. Stamping is the extra ledger on top, and it never clocks out. The cost was not only effort. It was the background tax of turning neutral information into personal evidence all day without a receipt. And because that charge is small each time, it hides. It accumulates until you mistake it for the texture of being you. Here is Grindset's irony. Peak performance often appears when the self gets quiet. In a hard task, attention can narrow until the next movement matters more than the name on the scoreboard. In flow, the stamp machine is not gone forever, but for a while, the manufactured me stops being available for things to stick to. Body working, mind precise. The comparison feed falls away. No jolt, less self-checking, more bandwidth for the thing itself. That does not prove you can command the machine to shut down. It only exposes the contradiction. Grindset keeps feeding the very process that peak performance needs to grow quiet. You thought you were training output. You were training self-reference. So the best moment of work does not look like a louder scoreboard. It looks plain. Hand on the keyboard, breath steady, the task close enough that the stamping has no room to land. Tomorrow at 5:04, before the first app, notice the first stamp before the first jolt. Not a cure, not a command, a receipt. Yogacara gave this machine a name before productivity dashboards existed. Manas, the seventh consciousness. In the Trimsika, verses 5 through 7, Manas is the layer that keeps appropriating experience as mine. Dan Lusthouse calls it a continuously operating cognitive affective center, organized around self-concern. That is the ancient circuit diagram and the modern morning scene pointing at the same movement. A neutral number enters. The sixth consciousness can sort and narrate it. But the stickiness comes from an older move. Manas has already built a me out of what is moving underneath. The jolt arrives. Then you call it my feeling. This is why Grindset feels so intimate. It does not merely ask you to work. It asks more of the world to pass through the word me. The last bowl's question changes shape. Who set the sampler's parameters? That still matters. But another layer sits between signal and story. Before the inference engine makes meaning, Manas has already made the owner feel present. The 4 gears that keep this machine turning will have to wait. Naming them too early would make the machine look simple. Today, the point is more basic. The wheel was already turning at 5:04. For now, the next question is underneath it. If the stamp machine keeps manufacturing the me, where does that movement draw from? The next bowl goes below the stamp, to the storehouse. Yogacara had a phrase for it 1,500 years ago. The storehouse is not a room, it is a river.
One gear of the machine that runs your mind. I'm not here to fix you. Just taking it apart, 1 bowl a week. Come do it with me. 1 bowl at a time.